It's not just sausages which is the problem for Keir Starmer. There's an article in the Financial Times, I think yesterday, that by Lucy Fisher, and it highlights the internal challenges and the criticism faced by Keir Starmer's government as Labour adjusts to governing for the first time in over a decade. And the issues range from organisational disarray to inadequate staffing to controversial decisions about the acceptance of donations, all of which contribute to a narrative of poor management, a failure to look at the optics, a lack of political acumen. There are about, she highlights about 5 things, and I think they're all relevant. The first is the infighting and the lack of clear leadership. And this is about Starmer's inability to create an assertive and definitive hierarchy to mitigate factional disputes. And the discontent among advisors over pay and a perceived lack of direction is creating friction within the administration. This is really about a long-standing problem with the government taking on SPADs, and they don't quite know what they are. Are they political appointees? Are they civil servants? Are they a development of government? It's not clear, and it's also not clear what pay scale they should be on, or at least it wasn't when they moved in, and now they've had a pay scale imposed on them and they're not happy. The second point is the management style, which is criticised. And so while Starmer had a reputation as a capable technocrat, his managerial approach is under scrutiny, and his lack of political judgment in some decisions, like the acceptance of high-value gifts, has been particularly damaging. Again, it's not about the policies he's pursuing, but the optics that he's indulging. The third point is the staffing and the preparations, and the article notes a significant delay in filling key roles, which has left ministers and advisors overstretched, and the lack of resources and support impacts the government's ability to effectively execute its agenda. And therefore, it's stumbling. The fourth point is the perception of the public and the messaging that is going out. And again, the expensive clothing donations from a party donor harms Labour's image. It's compared to similar scandals from the Conservative Party, suggesting a damaging equivalence in the eyes of the public. The need for clearer, more consistent messaging is also highlighted, as well as, there's a limit to how much gloom and doom any country can take from the top. The whole election was predicated on the idea of change. Change is not for the worse, change is for the better. But that's not what's occurred. And so we've had change plus sort of political punishment, particularly in terms of the knee-jerk decision about VAT on independent schools. Rachel Reeves says, it was flagged up before the election. Well, yes, it was. But given the fact that schools work on a 2 to 4 year timescale, this is an abrupt and unpleasant decision, which impacts particularly the poorer children who are receiving independent education, often because there isn't a sufficiently adequate education in the state system. By destroying something which works, you don't improve something else that doesn't work. You need to improve the system. And now is the time to take a decision and to change the education system in Britain as a whole. And that way, a good government could address all issues, including the idea of social manipulation, if it wanted to. I don't think it wants to, and I think it's frightened of doing this. There are other issues which are perhaps as pressing, but in the long term, if we don't get our education right, and we don't have it right at the moment, It's not about pumping more money at it. Rather like the NHS, it's about fundamentally changing the way it works. And teachers who are in schools, whether in state schools or private schools, frankly, and I've worked in both, by the way, and I've worked in schools abroad, and I worked in universities across the field, both here and abroad. So I think I've got a fairly good overall image of what our education is like and what it could be like. And at the moment, we are not leading. We are trying to keep up a system that existed in the 1960s. That system was modified in the 1960s and isn't good. And although the teaching principles, the Vygotsky, the Piaget ideas about experiential learning are positive, we're losing inspirational teachers, and we're losing that concept of inspiration. And we're replacing it instead with handouts, which don't work, and formulae, which don't work. We need to have a more inspired education system. And that means we need to work out what teachers can do and bring in support. The meat and bones of a lesson could be imported through technology, allowing the teacher to concentrate on the children in the class and to monitor what the children are doing, rather than to be focused on the content of the class. And if we change that fundamentally at all levels of our schooling, we would improve our schooling overnight. So the fifth point that Lucy makes is the necessity for a coherent economic strategy and a distinct policy direction to differentiate Labour from the Conservatives. That isn't done at the moment, except for A, the VAT on private education, and B, the pulling back of state support for pensioners during the winter. Neither of those things is really a clear direction about economic strategy. It's a knee-jerk response to saving money. And it's an imposition of austerity which actually attacks the poorest, the hardest hit already. The party conference should be a crucial opportunity for a strategic reset, and that wasn't the signal that came out from Keir Starmer yesterday. Overall, this article suggests that while there's some turbulence that's usual from a new administration, Starmer's government needs to more quickly address the issues that exist in order to maintain confidence within the party and among the electorate. If he were to be marked out of 10, he's probably scoring a rather minimal 4.